Hello, greetings, good evening if you're in the UK or in GMT time, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are on the face of the planet. Welcome to Arize Conversations. And as we know, it's a weekly thing. We start at 8 o'clock every Thursday. Last week, Thursday, which was my birthday, was the maiden edition. And today is the second episode. A big thank you to all you amazing viewers from across the world. Thank you for logging in to be with us. Big thank you and kudos to my dream team, my crew, Miss Olabisi Obadara, Isaiah, and of course the World of VOO crew for their technical support as always. Today we'll be again bringing our guest, Iyanifa Omobolanle Ogundare Eleagu, who is very ready and waiting to hear our questions at the end of today's show. But today, the things that we'll be talking about are on, first of all, let me tell you even about Iyanifa. For those that tuned in last week, you know who she is. But for those who just watching with us for the first time, Iyanifa Bola Ogundare Eleagu is a British-born Yoruba Nigerian. She's a UK-trained lawyer, barrister. She's an Ifa initiate and priestess. She's a spiritual healer, a qualified herbal practitioner. She's a diviner, a seer, a human rights activist, a youth mentor, a social commentator, and of course, a child of the universe. She's a wife and mother and a grandmother as well. Tonight, the things that we will be visiting are unpacking our theme, which is the Yoruba belief system. And this time around, we're having an overview of the universe. What is the universe? What makes up the universe? Nature, arts, science, quantum physics, alchemy, our health or ailments, herbal remedies or poisons, medicine, creativity, spirituality, inventions, innovations, beliefs, faiths, traditions versus cultural practices, wealth versus poverty, success and failure, relationships, sex, parents, children, life versus death, purpose, what is our purpose here? So all these things are things that we encounter in our lives, no matter how or how long we're on earth. At one point, as soon as we're born, we will encounter one of all these things that I have reeled out. And Iyanifa let us know last week, and from the researches I've also made and listened to other people who are practitioners of the Yoruba belief system, we believe that our belief system encompasses every one of these things and much more. Every one of these things and much more. So the Yoruba belief system is not a religion, we've been told. It's not a faith, we've been told. So it's not something that was organized by human beings. This is our way of life. Our belief system as Yoruba people is our way of life. And therefore, we have a lot of tenets and principles that we follow. And how was it that we missed the way or lost our way or dropped off, the actual track? How did our forefathers, how did our ancestors, how did they do it? And how were they able to get it right? How can we go back to our roots? Because I always say, and I always love to quote the great man, the father of Pan-Africanism, Dr. Marcus Garvey, who said, a people without knowledge of their history or from whence they came are like a tree without roots. And I always quickly add, they will surely die. But then we must not die. We should not die. And we will not die. And the only way forward is for us to go back to basics, find out exactly what it is that we lost, get it back, all the values that we have, and also ensure that we make up our own minds, not what people have told us or how we've been brainwashed as a people. Because when we look at other indigenous cultures, like the Japanese, like the Native Americans, like the Jews, they never abandoned, their way of life. They never did. And because they never did, they were able to build and continue building their society and their communities. So I'm hoping that Iyanifa is here with us, and I'm going to hand over back to the studio so we can play, one or two tapes of our promo and bring on our guest. I'm just trying to see if she's joined us in the virtual studio. So over to you now. Yes, there she is. Aboruboyu. Great to see you as always. Thank you so much for joining us. And before we start anything, I'd first of all, before we start anything as Yoruba people, we first pay homage and we pay veneration to our creator, Olodumare, and of course our ancestors. So over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. Mo ṣèbà Elédùmarè, mo ṣèbà Kọ́dá, mo ṣèbà Ṣẹ̀dá, mo ṣèbà Èṣù Ọláàlú Ògiri Òkò, ẹlẹ́gbára, ẹlẹ́gbàá, aléṣòkòtò péńpé sórí ẹjọ́ ẹlẹ́jọ́, ìwọ ló ní jẹ́ kẹ́ni tí ó jẹ́ ó gbé mi. Èṣù má ṣe ṣe wá bá ọmọ ẹlòmíràn ní kó ṣe. Ìbà ẹ̀yin ìyá mi, òfìlọ́pàá kí ọ̀là kí alágogo dẹ. Arógbá aṣọ má balẹ̀, ajókòó lórí odó parẹ́ mọ́dó. Ajẹ̀fúnjẹ̀dọ̀jẹ̀ rorò má jẹ tọmọmọ, ìbà yín ni mo ṣe. Mo ṣèbà fọ́ olókun àsọ̀rọ̀ dayọ̀, ẹlẹ́rìn ìpín, àtórí ẹni tí ò sún wọn ṣe. Mo ṣèbà Ọ̀ṣun ọ̀ṣẹ̀ǹgẹ̀ṣẹ̀ ìyá mi, ládé kojú ẹbọra tí ń gbénú omi. Akúrẹ́rẹ́ bí ẹni sùn bẹ́ẹ̀ ni ò sùn lọ. Ìyá mi alágbólódò, ìbà ẹni mo ṣe o. Mo ṣèbà Yémọ́já ìbọn tàṣà. Ìyá mi gbàlùbọ́sà kò fi rò fọ́ Yémọ́já yé. Mo ṣèbà Ọbàtálá Ọbàtárìṣà, ọba takuntakun tí máa wọn gbòde ìrànjẹ. Òòṣà ńlá ọ̀ṣẹ̀rẹ̀ gbò, bàbá mi tó sùn náà ẹ̀là tó jí náà ẹ̀là funfun gbòòlà, ìbà o. Mo ṣèbà Ògún lákáyé, olómi lè fẹ̀jẹ̀ ènìyàn wẹlẹ̀, òláṣọ lè fìmọ̀ kí mọ̀ bóra, Ògún má ṣe jẹ́ àríjẹ o. Mo ṣèbà gbogbo paparúmọlẹ̀ ojú kọ̀tún, mo ṣèbà gbogbo paparúmọlẹ̀ ojú kòsì, mo ṣèbà bàbá, mo ṣèbà yèyé, mo ṣèbà ọkùnrin, mo ṣèbà obìnrin, mo ṣèbà ọmọdé, mo ṣèbà onílé, mo ṣèbà àlejò, mo ṣèbà ẹ̀yin ìyá mi náà Moradeun, kó máa ju yín ṣe. Mo ṣèbà báyìí o. Mo ṣèbà oṣó núùlú, mo ṣèbà àjẹ́ núùlú, kẹ́ jẹ́ kí gbogbo ìta fẹ́ ṣe léyìn báyìí kó wá jú wa ṣe báyìí o. Wọ́n ní ìbà kí wọn mọ, àìṣèbà níhun ni. Àwa ti wá ṣèbà báyìí o. Ẹ má ṣe àwa wọlé akágò, ẹ má ṣe jẹ́ adẹran àmúso, ẹ má ṣe wá léwúrẹ́ dúdú adá lọ́wọ́ tẹ̀lẹ̀, kẹ́ jẹ́ kó tùbà kó túṣẹ fún wa. Gbogbo ìta fẹ́ ṣe léyìn báyìí kí ire báyìí la fi bẹ̀rẹ̀, ire ni ká fi parí, ká má ṣe ṣìṣe, ká má ṣe bá láyé fọwọ́ tì o. Gbòrògbòdò láyé kó má ṣe lù fún wa jó. Gbogbo àwọn tó wá ń gbọ́ wa báyìí, etí kọ̀ọ̀kan tó ń gbọ́ wa àtojú kọ̀ọ̀kan tó ń wò wá, kójú wọn má ṣe fọ́, kétí wọn kó gbogbo èyí tí mo wí lè ní báyìí kárò kúrò mọ́, torí àbámọ̀dá kan kì í dá tiẹ̀ kó má ṣe. Èyí tí mo wí lè ní báyìí ó ti rí bẹ́ẹ̀ ó ti ṣe bẹ́ẹ̀ o. Tó àbálẹ̀ èṣù.
Àṣẹ. Ẹ ṣeun. Ẹ káàbọ̀. Ẹ kú òun.
Yes, ma. So what I was saying for all our listeners.
So wonderful to see you.
And you too, ma.
And happy anniversary.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
I love the beauty of technology, because you're actually not in Nigeria at the moment. You're in,
no, I'm not.
You're in Ghana, West Africa.
Yes, I am. Yes,
but
I am.
Here we are, still speaking and seeing each other.
Yes.
And that in itself is something I'm also going to ask you about. That what does Ifa say about that? Things like this.
Ifa is technology. The 256 odus are what breaks down the motherboard in a computer. For computer scientists, it is what is the binary code.
And that's why they call it Oracle.
Yes.
That's amazing. I'm sure a lot of people will have questions on that. First and foremost, let me please introduce you as I should, so people would know who it is that we have. Our guest again today, if you're just tuning in, it's Arize Conversations, coming to you on Facebook Live, and we're on my platform, the Princess of Arize platform, and we are in the second episode of our 13-week theme, which we have called the Yoruba Belief System, a journey to understanding. The reason why we put this together is to educate ourselves, to seek knowledge, to find out more about things, to ask questions, and to be able to make up our own minds, because we have choices. Once we have information, information and knowledge is power, and therefore it's left to us as individuals to use the information and the knowledge that we have to move forward with our lives. And of course, our amazing guest has been very kind enough, even though she's a very, very busy woman. She's made time to partner with us and be with us right through this 13-week episode. Today, I have with me, of course, our amazing Iyanifa herself, Iyanifa Bola Ogundare Eleagu, who is a British-born Yoruba. So she's a Nigerian, but she's of Yoruba descent. She's a UK-trained lawyer. She's an Ifa initiate and priestess. She's a spiritual healer. She's a herbalist because she's qualified. She actually studied herbalism. So she knows about roots and herbs and all the healings therein. She's a diviner. She's a seer. She's a human rights activist. She is a youth mentor. She's a supporter of women. She's a social commentator. And most importantly, she's a child of the universe, like each and every one of us. So thank you so much. I hope I've done justice to introducing you.
Thank you.
Oh, by the way, yes, she is the wife of an Igbo brother. So her husband is not Yoruba. I'm sure that's probably going to daze a lot of you. And Iyanifa married to an Igbo man. And she's a mother and a grandmother as well. And she's very fashionable. So I think this is going to be debunking a lot of erroneous ideas that people have about somebody who's an Ifa priestess or a Yoruba diviner or seer. Today, Iyanifa,
Yes,
we are we're going to say thank you once again as we pay kudos to our beloved Olabisi Obadara and Isaiah, who are our crew and our technical team of World of VOO. Thank you so much for all that you do continuously.
Thank you.
So today, Ma, we will be examining, unpicking and unpacking our Yoruba belief system as an overview of the universe, nature, the arts, the sciences, creativity, inventions, innovations, quantum physics, alchemy, health, herbal remedies or herbalism, medicine, creativity, spirituality, beliefs, faiths, religions. What is the difference between a religion and spirituality? Traditions and culture. People mix it up. Wealth and poverty, success and failure, relationships with parents, with partners, with children, with colleagues, friends, family, life and death, and of course, our purpose here on this earth as we know it. So the ball is in your court. Let me know which one you want to tackle first. And of course, we're going to have questions and answers at the end of the show from those who watched with us last week, which I think I've shared them with you.
Yeah,
so over to you, ma'am.
Okay. So thank you very much, Mia. The first thing I would like to talk about is faith. I would like to start with the issue of faith. In terms of the bigger picture of what we're talking about in as Ifa as a platform, and also looking at our tradition and culture. First of all, I'd like to say that I might not cover every single topic because I'm somebody that I like to be very thorough with what I'm doing. So let's just start off with faith and then move on from there for time. So again, when it comes to faith for me within Ifa, I should first of all start off by saying that Ifa has a perspective on everything, a solid perspective, from sex to relationship to the religious aspect. Ifa has pharmacology, it has sacred science.
Did you say sex?
Yes, sex, yes.
I don't think people heard that.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
So Ifa has a solid perspective on sex. Let me give you an example, though I might not be treating the topic because it's quite a large thing. And rather than going into the odus, it's just to give you the overview. So, in terms of sex, there are times when a client or somebody will come for a divination, and their issue will be around being able to have children, for example, that they don't have any children. Now, Ifa, depending on the Odu, will be very specific sometimes as to where they should have sex, i.e., not on a bed, on the floor, in a place that is like a farm, in a bush. So, and it sounds, people be like, but all these things are said by Ifa for a reason, because it's a sacred science. So, again, when we look at the issue of gravity, you know, Ifa teaches us again about gravity, the fact of, many childbirth positions, not assuming them as we're taught in the so-called modern day world, because you're actually working against gravity as opposed to with gravity. So that is why our mothers used to do what we know as ikunle abiyamo, to kneel
Mm.
and to give birth and to attain a certain position, because when you do that, it's a natural flow with birth, which is less painful, less stressful, much quicker, and you're working with gravity. So when it comes to sex again, if it talks about certain positions for couples not to have sex in, especially if they're trying to conceive, backed by certain odus. Also, if I talks a lot in sex in terms of couples not having certain positions and being very specific as to reasons why they shouldn't have these sex positions. People are like, the day and age we live in now is very liberal. I can sleep with my husband or wife or my partner in any way I want. But all these things, Ifa lets us know that some of them have consequences for some of the things people find themselves in, and they feel like, oh, well, it's nothing. But then later on, they discover it's actually something. So I don't know if you can hear me very well, Yam.
Yes, I'm paying
Yeah.
rapt attention. I can hear you. Yes.
Okay. So basically, Ifa, like I said, Ifa, like you said it earlier, Ifa is not a religion, but within Ifa is contained religion. We have a pharmacology aspect of Ifa, which then delves again into herbal medicine, treating of ailments. We have the sacred science within Ifa. Ifa is not maths, but it has mathematics within it. So there is no aspect or facets of life that you will touch that you will not find, i.e., an Odufa for, guidance from Ifa, and a solid perspective on Ifa, which you'll find that is the truth.
May I just ask a quick question, ma'am,
Sure.
Iyanifa?
Yeah.
You've said Odu the word Odu. I know what it means, but for the benefit
Okay.
of those who don't know, especially our viewers who are from the Caribbean or the Americas, who
Okay.
don't know what Odu really
Okay,
is.
so Odu goes into two facets, but I'll only mention one. So when, for example, I'll try to break it down very basically, a divination is done for you, there is a signature that comes up. Now, from you have the 16 major Odus, which are the signatures, if you like, of the divination that is done, and I'll explain it a bit more. And then they go all the way to 256 Odus. Now, these are different signatures. So you have from the 16 major Odus, from Ejiogbe to Orogomeji. Those are the 16 major. Then you have the combination all the way down, counting altogether 256 Odus. Now,
Wow.
these signatures are just like what you mentioned about technology earlier. When you see the binary code in computers, they're just like that. And IFA, this is why we say IFA is computers, not to undermine IFA, but it is that technology, that sacred technology. IFA is all the things that are being used in a system, all the things that a computer scientist can do within their work, a babalawo can do times a million times with more hidden secrets
Wow.
of the binary codes and the
Times a million times.
yes.
You said that with such conviction and boldness.
Yes, because it's the truth. I mean, I'll come to address this later. When you look at someone was having an argument yesterday. They were saying, oh, science, you know, the Western people, they document their science. Where do we document ours? And I'm like, our science is not just a science within Ifa, it's a sacred science. When you look at science and things like that, you know, people talk about Ifa contain Ifa to mythology. Ifa is not a myth. Ifa is the reality, the essence of life, the very iota of things that you can touch, that you can feel, that you can chant. You know, I'll give you an example. There's something, I'm not sure how to say it in English, but for example, back in the day,
Yoruba.
ancestors, right, in Yoruba, we have something called aferi.
A
Aferi is a
fairy.
means of transport that you can move from one place to another without having left where you are.
Like
And
quantum
aferi,
travel.
yeah.
Quantum travel.
Yes, so basically it's almost like an astral travel, but it's different because you don't open doors, you're in one room and you can find yourself elsewhere.
So you evaporate, you physically evaporate from one particular spot and
to
go and
another space.
condense
And
elsewhere.
a fairy is just as potent as it was back then, but it's just that many people don't no longer have the knowledge of this.
Would it be because it has been misused?
I feel that the few elders that actually know these things, the authentic, proper things, got it with, I don't like to use the word oath, but with a kind of secret binding, a promise to do right with it at all times, not to use it for wrongdoing, stealing, you know, murdering people or doing wrong things. And so therefore they would have to look at somebody's character and find them worthy to be able to pass such
The issue of
science onto that person.
the
Because
issue of
potentially it can be
Iwapele.
very dangerous. Yeah.
So the
So it
issue of
goes back to
Iwapele comes up again.
Yes. So this is why this is the first tenet of Ifa. So a lot of our elders were able to do all these kind of things. We have things like Dari. Dari is a form of, I don't want to call it a charm because it's an Ifa Akoshe, where someone can be stabbed and the knife will actually break. Or you can hit someone with a cutlass and you will see it break into two before your very eyes. Again, these things are sacred. That is why we don't, if I use the word science, we use the word sacred science. And you have to be found worthy, not just because you act worthy or you look worthy, through a series of tests, a lifetime of path and a journey to be handed these sacred science.
You know why I'm smiling? You know why I'm smiling, Iyanifa? Because it brings to mind many years ago when my father, our iconic prince, when he was in politics in the 60s, during the First Republic in Nigeria, for those who are aware about the First Republic. And something happened to him, talking about Aferi. There was some big case, and he was a returning officer, and he had to go to some court. I think it was Western Region. So there's a court in Abeokuta that he had to attend. And they had promised that he would be killed. They had promised him that. It wasn't a threat, it was a promise that Omoba kind of thing, you know? So my dad was telling us that he, of course, being a prince, he knew there were a few things he should do. So he approached some elders, you know, who had these sacred sciences. And he went somewhere very far away, somewhere past Idori. I can't remember the exact town or village. And like you rightfully said, his character was weighed very much. The man he was taken to meet had never met my father. He knew the person who took my father, the elder who took my father. And my father said, as soon as they got there, this man started eulogizing him as, you know, recognizing him as a prince, as a prince of Remo, as a son of Adedoyin. So he looked at his older friend to ask, you know, did you tell this? I said, no, I didn't. I just sent a message to him through, you know, those people that operate transport system back then, that we were coming. And he said, yes, we should come at this day. Now, fast forward, He gave my father whatever it was he was supposed to give him, and he went on, for this case. And he said, naturally, as a human being, he kept thinking, well, if this is it, this is it. I'll go to meet my maker. But he said something in him just said, you know what? I'm still going to have, I'm going to believe in this sacred thing that I've been given. And he did all the things he was meant to do. So after the judgment was passed, of course, my father's evidence was upheld at the time. It was to do with people trying to, they've been doing GBT in Nigeria for a long time. Okay, so people just trying to make votes more than they really were. And because he was the returning officer, he went to give exactly what was voted, what the numbers were. So everybody left the court. My father said he sat there until the time for the courts to actually close, and the guard there, said, Kabisi, you have to please leave, because I have to shut up. He's a civil servant, so he has to lock up and go and give the key to them at the gate. So my father said, well, reluctantly, he stood up. He still had that thing in his pocket. He said he stood up. No, he returned it to his pocket because apparently he's supposed to do something with it.
Yes.
So he said he stepped out and he started looking down and he said to himself, I do not want to see the face of whoever is going to kill me. That he was just going to go. He said till he walked all the way from that court to Shakmo or wherever he was supposed to take the truck, because he had told his driver to go.
Yeah.
So he got home by public transport, got on the bus. People were talking about this prince that had been killed. That definitely they have Yonjue. That's it. He was warned not to come to court. He came. My father said he himself, he was like, he looked left, he looked right in the vehicle. He was on something called Bola Kaja back then. So he was trying to be as incognito as possible. Then there was a woman, he said there was a woman sitting beside him, and that woman just spoke to him very soft tones that, don't worry, Omoba, they cannot see you. And that's why they're talking about you, because they don't know you're here. He said he nearly jumped out of his shirt. And he said, what?
I mean,
but anyway,
we have something else again called Ishiju. And Ishiju is something that makes you invisible. You can be in a room, you can walk out of one room into another, and no one will see you.
Okay, so I'm not sure. Okay, so I'm not sure what exactly this one was called. But long story short was that my father then wanted to take this thing back because he had to return it.
Yeah.
He said for some weird reason his car would not start. There was something wrong with the engine. My mother was not at home. He had lost his purse. It was, everything was against him. He said he walked to his friend's office and said, we have to take this thing back. The man said, yes, let's go. So they went by public transport. They tried. They got there like 2 a.m. He said when they got there, the man greeted them very well and welcomed them and saluted them. Saluted my father for his gallantry and for being truthful, for coming back. He said because many people would not come back. Exactly. So my father said he put his hand in his pocket to retrieve this thing so he can give it back, respectfully.
And it was already out.
There was nothing in his pocket.
He said, its rightful place.
He said he started sweating that, Baba, I did bring it. My friend can attest to it. The man just smiled, reached out beside him and showed it to my dad. Said it came back home because there was a time. There was a time that was agreed.
Yes.
There was a time that was agreed.
To come back. And that's what people don't realize. They think, okay, I have this thing, I can take it from the rightful owner. Once they see the power, don't let me return it. But the owner can always render it useless. They can always bring it back again.
I think this is the first time I'm sharing this story public. I've shared it with a few of my friends and my cousins, but it just shows, as I've also been studying over the years, it just shows that indeed, in our Yoruba belief system, there are things that are potent that we have,
Yes. Yes.
or that we had in the past, and probably that we still have, as you've just shared with us. So I just thought, let me share that, because it
Thank you
tickled me
very
when
much for
when you
sharing that,
described.
because people always feel sometimes that it's just some wonderful movie. These are things that we've had times immemorial in terms of lineages, ancestral, with our elders, with our ancestors, and they still continue to be so today if people just know how. And these things, again, like you said, were for protection, for, in the case of your father, protection. When war was coming, there was no time sometimes for people to plan. They needed to evacuate, so they had to be used for the right purposes. There was a means as a communication to basically protect the community. And that's why the elders are so particular who they give it to and who they teach it to, and that your iwakwale must be weighed over and over again, because it must be seen, because they're responsible for being the custodian of it. These things are passed down, this knowledge, but they don't just give it anyhow, because there are people that will use it for stealing for the wrong reasons. And so therefore they have to be, they have to really scrutinize.
Why are human beings so convoluted? Why, Olodumare has put everything in place for us, things that would help us live it to the fullest. Why must we? Okay, I'm not even sure why
I
I'm
guess
asking that
people
question.
are never
Because
satisfied, and they
we have
always
free
want
will.
control. Yeah, it's greed and also wanting control of everything. And I wonder, like I often say to people, if Eleagu was like that, where would we all be? So
As
yeah.
was somebody that also said that the other day, what kind of God would you be? Or what kind of God would I be if we were in the position of God? And all
Exactly.
you have to do is just run a screen through yourself. Think of the things that you have done or that you know you're capable of doing.
Exactly.
He said that's your answer. That is the kind of
You'll find your
that
true
that
answer.
you would be. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. So you were going to explain to us the difference between faith
Yeah, so basically I was talking about faith. I think that stood
and our belief system.
And I think that the thing is, when I quite often I ask people what is faith, they say it's my belief in this. Faith has nothing to do with religious belief, because faith is what makes you impenetrable as a person. Faith is a torch that is within you that cannot be put out by no other being but yourself.
It's like a shield.
Yes.
Like
And
your personal
faith
shield.
is what makes you step out on a limb and say, I must, I can, I will.
And I will.
Yeah.
I can
So
resonate
it's
with that.
completely different to a religious belief or religious doctrine. Faith is a personal thing. Faith is something that makes sure it's how you transcend things, even when there are challenges. It's having that hope, that belief in self, that this thing I want to do, though people be looking at it like, Princess, how are you going to achieve that? It's merely impossible. But you have the faith that you can, you will, and you must. And that is something that other human beings cannot take away from you. It is something that is inherent in every single one of us. And the only thing that can destroy faith is fear.
Oh, wow.
But again, it comes from within.
Wow. That's amazing. Thank you so much. Now, I want us to, there was a few things that you had said you would want to throw light on.
Yes. So, I mean, like I said, faith being one of them. The other thing I wanted to talk about, which is a big deal for me, and the reason why we have the problem we do, both within our traditional belief system and life as a whole, is the difference between tradition and culture. Now, people often mix up the two. They're like, oh, the way we dress, what I eat, what I do, that's my tradition. No, that is your culture.
And that can change, actually. It evolves.
However, yes, there is one part that people also put into culture that is not, because it's not generic, it's individual. That is your name. That is why when people come into the tradition or they're in Ifa or they get initiated into Ifa, you get told your actual name, the real name that you brought from Orun to Aye. So in between the two planes. And people don't understand that name is not your culture because your name is personal. As your name, sorry to call you by your name, Moradeun has a meaning. When the
Then,
word Moradeun is spoken, there is your ancestors behind you. There is a power. There is so much things that there's a force behind you that cannot be reckoned with. Your name, Moradeun, is what speaks about your transition into this plane. How you got into this plane, how you fulfill your destiny is different from others. So therefore, it is not a common thing. It's a personal thing. It's a private thing. So therefore, it is not your culture. That
wow.
is when you look at it, our Yoruba people always say, Ile la n wo ka to
Ká
somo
tó sọmọ
lórúkọ.
lórúkọ. Mm.
We look at the home, our lineage, before naming a child, because the name of a child speaks about the child's destiny, speaks about the child's coming into this plane, speaks about how the child would achieve destiny, speaks about every single fiber of that child.
Wow.
So it's
That is
different.
that is
Again,
that's such an amazing point that you've made there. So how about people that have embraced other faiths and other religions apart, aside our indigenous, Yoruba belief system, and they've
okay.
taken on names, or their parents have given them names, that are Islamic names or Jewish names or Christian names. How about that?
Well, one thing I will always say is that some people will say that when you come, I mean, there's difference in different places, like part of Africa, for example. Some people will tell you that if you come into Ifa and your name is John, when you get initiated, it will still be John. It cannot still be John, with all due respect. The reason being, your name speaks of your ancestor. Your name in Ifa speaks of your lineage. Your name speaks of your destiny and how to achieve that destiny. The blueprint to your very life is contained within your name and your Odufa. So for people who are born into Abrahamist religion, with all due respect, I can turn it around and say, when you're giving birth to, you must rebirth yourself. Contrary to what we're taught in Abrahamist religion, that you're rebirth through your belief either in Jesus or otherwise. So my point of it is that when someone is born, or they grow up, say for example as a Christian, and their parents say your name is Joseph, and you bear that name as Joseph, in every single thing. Okay, let me use something that sounds silly instead. Sorry. And this is no disrespect to anybody that's by that name. So I once met somebody. What's your daughter's name? She said Rainbow. I said, okay.
Rainbow as
I
in
turned,
Oshumare.
as in Oshumari. So I turned it around and I said, have you ever heard of the Deity Oshumari, which is the connection between mother and child, the umbilical cord, the unspoken word, the very blueprint, the life and essence to the child, the nurture of the child? And she was like, no, I haven't. So I was like, though you're calling it in English rainbow, if you spin that around, your child's name is actually Oshumari.
Wow.
So when you change it, this is why we're taught that though there are translation within Ifa, it's important to have both Yoruba and the translation. The reason being, when it is taken away from the mother tongue, it loses a lot of essence, a
The
lot of
essence.
power that is behind it, behind what is being said. So for those that are born by a different name, I cannot judge somebody for something that was done by their parents that they had no control over. However, once you get initiated into Ifa, you will understand what your actual real name is. We have to understand that a lot of people, right or wrong, did a lot of things, including our parents, for acceptability purpose, whether in society or otherwise. Even when they themselves, I've seen people that come from families of Oya worshippers, so they're Aboyade, they would name their child, Deborah. And they'll say, when I was in this country, I had to go to Catholic church for my children to be able to go to school. I'm not saying it's an excuse. I had to do what was accepted in society at that time, though they knew within themselves that, it's not right. And when you look at even us in the diaspora, you go to the registry, you'll see the registrar saying, why do you Yoruba people, African people have so many names? They can't even fit on the birth certificate. Each name given to a child has a reason, a purpose, an essence. It's not just because, well, they're jobless, let me give my child 10 names or, 11 names.
And sometimes, most times, the names come from parents, grandparents.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how we do. It's the same way when you marry, you don't just marry your husband or your wife, you marry their family.
The clan.
So when a child is born, the child belongs to the family, the community, the lineage. So everybody will come and say, Orukote mi for Moreo. But they
come with money.
mean something, exactly. So because the child belongs to the lineage, it belongs to the mother, father, it belongs to the community. Because whatever the child does in the future doesn't just affect his parents, it affects his peers, it affects the community, it affects society at large.
So can we say that your name announces you before you arrive?
Yes, definitely. Definitely.
Thank you,
and that's why, in the diaspora, I've always been seen as stubborn, even growing up, because I would refuse for a Western person, as long as I have to say your name and respect you for whatever your name is. If you can't say my name, don't speak to me. Because I'm not going to improvise and say, oh, is it this? Or can I just say it like this? No, you can't just say it like that. You have to say it as it is, or don't say it at all. Because every time my name is mentioned, my ancestors march behind me.
It's very interesting that you said that, Iyanifa, because a powerful woman who has now become an ancestor was very much like yourself, Mrs. Olufunlayo Kuti.
Wow.
Apparently, when she was studying here in the 40s or 30s, she would never allow them to call her by any other name except her full name, as in Oluwafunmilayo.
Yes.
They said she would make the lecturers repeat it. She would make her classmates repeat it, that this is my name. Because she said her name had meaning.
Yes,
that,
exactly.
Which is very interesting. So it's a good thing. It's like, for instance, a lot of people have kind of, maybe I also started it because when I realized that people couldn't really pronounce my name, Moradeun. So I just thought, you know what, just call me Deun for short. And I was just Deun for a long time. And one day my father, bless his soul, he said, small girl, what does Deun mean? Well, I said, that's my name, Dad. He says, no. What does DEUN mean? I said, well, he said, exactly. He said, I gave you the name Mori Adedoyin. I have inherited a crown, or I've inherited crowns.
Yes.
But Yoruba would then call it Moradeun to make it rhyme and easy to pronounce for Yoruba. Even when you say Moradeun, it still has meaning.
Of course.
He said, so stop people calling you a name that does not have meaning.
And when you
that's why I had to change my name back to Moradeun. I know there are a few people that still call me Princess Deun. So please, I am Princess Moradeun. Deun doesn't mean anything. Really.
And also, when you look at phonics that are used to teach children, the sound we are taught means a lot. The vibration, the energy. So then why would I allow somebody, just because you feel you cannot say my name or pronounce it, to now cut my name in half, or call me something that is not my name, because you're giving me a different vibration?
And words are powerful.
Of course.
Thank you so
Words are
much for.
sound and effect. So it's very, very important. So
Thank you very much for throwing light on that. What there was have you finished on the faith? Because I
no,
kind of.
so well, I finished on the faith.
Okay.
But if there's any questions, you can ask me. But what I wanted to say is on the issue of tradition versus culture.
That's it.
It's
Versus
very,
culture.
very important for us to learn the difference, know the difference, and refuse to be moved, because it goes again into something like when people say Onishegun, Babalawo, we are two different people.
Could you break that down, please?
Yeah, so Babalawo is an Ifa priest, as an Iyanifa is an Ifa priestess. And Onishegun is a herbalist. But when I won't even use the word herbalist, because it just means somebody that makes medicine, which a herbalist is more holistic as a word than Onishegun, if we're to kind of turn it inside out. So when you look at an Onishegun, someone who makes medicine, they might make a generic medicine for 15 different people, the same thing. A Babalawo dare not do the same, because what I make for you as an Akoshefa is based on, which is Ifa medicine, is based on the Odufa divined for you, is based on you, what Ifa says to you as a person. And what a Babalawo will make for Taiwo, a twin, will not be the same as Kehinde.
Because they're two different entities.
Because it's about our Ori in Ifa, which is the most supreme being. Our inner Ori is the most supreme being. Whereas an Onishegun can make something and say, princess, come and buy. Lagbaja, come and buy. You too, come and buy. And then people will say, Babalawo Onishegun did something for me. It doesn't work. A Babalawo has to work from the blueprint of what Ifa is saying to you. Has to work from the blueprint of your Odu. That is why our work is much more in-depth spiritually and so technical and complex.
Thank you.
We don't just make something generic and go, oh, here it is, everybody buy, buy one, get 10 free. So
like a one-stop shop.
Exactly. Thank you. So, that there's a big difference. And because of that big difference as well, quite often things that Babalawos are not guilty of, or if I devotees or initiates or priest or priestess, we are being accused of.
For instance,
there are things that an Onishegun would do based on wherever they get their morals or principle from that we cannot do, because we have to follow the laws of Ifa.
So an Onishegun might not necessarily be an Ifa devotee.
No, they can just be somebody. There are people who in their family, maybe that's what their grandfather did or their father did, was just to do with medicine. They learned it about the herbs and stuff, and they go on to it. Again, Ogun is different from Akoshefa.
What is the difference?
Okay, so an Ogun, for example,
Is Ogun medicine?
Using medicine. So they can be like spiritual medicines that are made via soaps, powders, different things that they just make it and give it to you. Now, Akoshefa is very specific. It's based on you as an individual. It's based on Odu. It's based on certain
your DNA and everything.
certain manifestations. So completely different. The process is different.
Thank you. One of our viewers is asking, she says, can Iyanifa kindly please explain my name? Her name is Omolara.
So back in the days, I use the word back in the days, when most elders, I don't know who grew up with this, but I still saw it with my grandparents. They will always have what is known as Olori Asho, like it's like velvet, Aaron.
Yes. That was our, yes, that was.
Whoever remember their mother, father, or their grandparents having trunk boxes.
Yes.
I don't know if I'm too young by saying trunk boxes. Maybe there
Yeah,
was
we
something.
remember trunk boxes.
Yeah. So with the trunk boxes, you will always find what is known as the olori asho. So like Aaron, Ofi, those kind of things.
Sonyo, Alari.
Yes. Thank you very much.
No, we do.
So all those things, when they call a child Omolara, Omo, we know stands for child. Ara is not just your body, but Omolara signifies that you are everything in terms of wealth. Omo yen la show me. Òun lówó mi, òun lọlá mi, òun lẹ̀mí mi, torí Omolara.
Ẹni, Omolara ẹni.
So this is, just kind of breaking it down for her. So it signifies, so you can imagine someone just calling you Lara, which I'm sure they've allowed people to do. It's a different thing. What does the word Lara means? So when you call your name in full, not only is your vibrations reminded of who you are, that you must live as royalty. Yes, you must live as though you are the bee's knees, because that's what your name says.
I am the business.
Exactly, and refuse to be not treated anyway. But when they go at Lara want me by Lara, it's not the same. So
thank you. I hope our viewer is happy with that. Thank you so much. So you were talking about the difference between culture and tradition. So you've explained culture.
Yes. So how about tradition? Our tradition is Ifa. When would they say Isheshe? That is our tradition, right? Because our tradition
it's
is
not
our
a religion,
system, but it's also our way of life.
Path.
Yes, our way of life, the
our
mode
pathway,
of worship,
our
the
pathway,
incantations, the way that we worship, the way that we observe sacred moments, including our meditative cycles, and all those things. Our way of life is our tradition. Wearing agbada is not your tradition, no, it's your culture.
So why do we say traditional outfits?
Because Oyibo, àròpọ̀ fún wa ní sẹ́ǹsì ní bá a mọ̀ pé wọ́n dì sẹ́ǹsì wa gangan.
Oh dear.
Bí àṣà Saheed Òṣùpá, olóní ó kọrin kan, ó ní ọ̀làjú dé la wá gbàgbé ohun tá a dáyé bá. Ọ̀làjú ló dé la máa sọ pé, oh, I can't bear that name. My child doesn't speak Yoruba. Ó mọ̀ pé àpò ìyá ló so kọ́. Ọ̀làjú la ló dé.
Modernization.
Even, okay, many people, they'll say, I want an African naming ceremony. So I'm always asking them, what is an African naming ceremony to you? Nǹkan tí òye wọn ni pé ìṣẹ̀ṣe ni ìṣẹ̀ṣe máa máa jẹ́. If you have a traditional naming ceremony, oníṣẹ̀ṣe ni ẹ kó má tanra ẹ̀. Because gbogbo nǹkan tí a fi ń sọmọ lórúkọ ló ní ìtumọ̀. All the things we use to name a child have meaning.
I'm sorry that I'm laughing, because I'm laughing at myself because of the next question. Now you've just spoken about naming ceremony. How about traditional marriage that most people call engagement?
Òyìnbó ò ní pa wá ìyá mi. Òyìnbó will not kill us.
I share.
Because traditional wedding, ìgbéyàwó,
whatever that means.
Tẹ́rí ọ̀rọ̀ tá a sọ pé ìgbéyàwó is another topic. Níjọ́ tí Ọ̀rúnmìlà tó ń lọ gbé ìyá ní ìyàwó, òun ló jẹ́ ìyàwó. But I don't want to
go into that today. When we start dealing with naming ceremonies and marriages.
So when we look at even the word, like I've always told you, I'm a wordsmith. I think about words before I say them, because it's so important. If I can't get the word, I'll just use my Yoruba and be done. If you don't like, you don't like. Wedding. What is a wedding? Number one. 2, we're talking about traditional wedding that people call engagement. What is the meaning of the word engagement? We don't understand the powers of words. You go and do your engagement. You will get an engagement. And when the engagement starts to happen, you wonder why is everything going wrong. What is the meaning of the word engagement?
To engage with something, or to go into, is it like going into a contract?
Like a contract, yes. But
with
when
something.
We look at it that...
But marriage is not meant to be a contract.
Exactly.
Three lawyer ni you are
exactly,
lawyer.
Ìtorí ẹ̀ ni mo ṣe ń béèrè lọ́wọ́ yín wípé nígbà tí èèyàn bá ṣe lóhun ṣe engagement tó wá bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí ní rí ìrí contract tó wá ní kí ló ṣẹlẹ̀ nínú engagement, ṣé àwọn pé nǹkan tó pè òun ló ṣẹlẹ̀ sí. Because when your words hit the universe, it is granted àṣẹ.
How? It's very interesting you said that, man. I was doing some studies the other day, and apparently I read that the universe is really not interested in how you feel. It's interested in what you say and how you act, because those are the things that emit energy. And the universe...
That is why in Ifa there's a song we sing. We say, Kolobo fenu re sure, Kolobo ire aje lo fe, Kolobo fenu re sure o, Kolobo ire omo lo fe o, Kolobo fenu re sure o, Kolobo.
So use your own mouth.
Use your own mouth
to prophesy. To manifest
that which you want in your life. So if you use your mouth to manifest, that's why àwọn àgbàlagbà máa sọ pé tí itọ́ bá ti jáde lẹ́nu kò tún padà sílẹ̀ kan. There's some incantations of Ifá that requires fún itọ́ yẹn kó jáde lẹ́nu kó fojú gbà báyìí ó ti dàṣẹ.
So you cannot eat your words, as it were. You cannot take them back.
That's why they say words are like an egg. Once they're broken, kò ṣe kó mọ̀. Tẹ́yìn bá ti fọ́ sílẹ̀ ó parí nìyẹn. What you can do is mop it up. So.
Wow. So, oh my goodness. I'd want you to please say that again, how you explain that particular aspect, because that was very deep.
So what I'm saying is that, or what I did say is that, your words, when you say, like, because we were talking on the issue of traditional marriage. Or traditional wedding, engagement, that some people call engagements. And I was asking, what's the word? Let's look at the Latin sense. Let's look at the English sense of the word engagement. Is to enter into a binding contract, not just a contract, a binding
one
contract. So, and people don't realize that even, okay, when we look at law, let's come away from our religious belief at the moment. When you look at law, when I come to you and I say, Princess, take this phone, you accept the phone, and then you pay me for the phone, or whatever is agreed you do. It's a form of acceptance and a contract. And a contract doesn't have to be written for it to be legally binding. It can be right. So I'll come back to that point in a moment.
Was that why back in the day, men would spit in their palm and shake? Once they have
because
they shake.
The syllab is seen to contain your mouth, your tongue, your spit contains ashe. Because it comes from within. And
it's very interesting, because that's even a Western thing.
Yes. But even though you say it's a Western thing, a lot of it, they lived with us, studied our ways when we go back to colonialism.
So once the spit is done, so basically the spit mixes together.
our elders
when they
say,
shake,
it becomes binding.
it becomes
You know?
binding.
Yes, and that is why a lot of our elders used to make the statement, "Tí tó bá ti jáde lẹ́nu kò tún padà
Then
síbẹ̀ mọ́." Once the saliva is out of the mouth, it cannot return back there, because you can't count saliva on the floor. It hits the atmosphere. It's hit the universe. It has received its manifestation. It has received a check. So you cannot collect it back from the universe. It is done. Deep. It is sealed. It is signed.
That is so deep. That is so deep. That is so deep. Oh, wow. Thank you so much for going, because I just wanted our viewers to get it, to really get it.
I understand.
Wow.
So.
Okay, so before we go to the questions that we have for you, is there any? That's why I wanted this thing to be 13 weeks, because I knew there's so much. There's so much to cover. So now we are. I know that there was one thing specifically that you also wanted to. Was it alchemy?
Yes. So I'll touch on it very briefly because it's a huge subject.
It's also very wide.
Yes, it's massive. You know, alchemy for me, I was having some conversations yesterday, and you know, alchemy is said in the dictionary to be a mutation of metals to gold, right? Or, you know, rare metals to gold. Alchemy for me is an energy. Alchemy is once something can mutate. Is it only metal to mutate to gold? This is where we're missing the link. If you can, I don't know if guys can see my hand. There is an Ide Osun on my hand.
Yes.
Yeah.
So basically, like the gold,
it's
yellow.
Brass. It's brass.
Brass. Okay.
Yes. So, but when you look at people having arthritis, for example, they're told to use anything copper, bronze, because it's a conductor. It can mutate with your energy and your blood to give you relief. People just say, they said we should wear copper. And people don't really ask questions why they should wear copper, because it's a conductor. So when you wear that copper,
energy.
And you have arthritis, there's a mutation going on there. This Ide Osun that you see, it is said in Odufa, Oshun, that Oshun came with her Ide Osun from Orun to Aye. And because it could mean, you know, she could use it to move. She could use it to create the sacred science that she needed at any given time.
Wow.
So we don't just wear it because to show that, okay, I'm an Oshun devotee or I believe in Oshun, but also as a conductor, as a form of protection and energy and essence. So when you look at water has a DNA, but you can make water mutate.
Absolutely.
So it's not gold. So there's so many words that have been downplayed for us because they don't want us to discover the very essence in what is being done.
So we're back again to that issue of you know, the power in our language.
Yes.
In our indigenous language.
Yes.
That at some point in time the colonial masters labeled it vernacular. Whereas the real meaning of vernacular is you speaking a language that is different from your indigenous tongue. Exactly. So
and people
our people back then, they got fined.
What was the
they got fined? They got fined for speaking their own language, which they were meant to be speaking. The English was actually the vernacular.
But when you look at it, even in terms of our indigenous path and way of life, you have Japanese will send their people to Africa, to Nigeria or Yoruba land to come and learn Yoruba. They'll start off there before they'll start to learn Ifa. Why?
Yes. Because they want to ensure that they get it right.
Exactly. They know the essence, the force. When you do a chant in Ifa, for example, or even Yoruba eulogy like Oriki Enyo, and you hear the drums go with that the Eleagu is chanting and the drums are rolling, you know that the drums is Anyon for a reason, because it's a spirit on its own. It's a deity. And you hear the essence. You see the way the skies move, the waters react, the sun, and every single element is moved.
Powerful orchestration.
But if they make you speak English, I beg my sister, I no go get to see.
Nothing is going to happen. One of our dear sisters from South Carolina, she just said, as the old saying goes, if you don't have anything good to say nothing at all. That's what my great grandmother would say. This is Princess Angelique Ademeko-Simone, who
Thank you
has
very much for that, because that is so true. You know, that is so true, because people feel we have been taught. This is another thing that I had some people within Isheshe, and they were telling me that, but we don't meditate in Isheshe. And I'm like, because you're talking about Isheshe as a whole. My spirituality is my personal experience. It is my personal journey. None can define it but me and my Ori. And in this life, we are taught to keep running around like a headless chicken, believing that that is where the power is. Whereas when you are still in a meditative cycle, you control everything.
The power is within. The power is within. Thank you. We're getting, past 9 o'clock, and I know we have to wrap up and also let you go. So very quickly, I'm going to go through. I sent you the questions ahead, so you'll be able to.
You did.
So one of the first questions we had was again our amazing lady Omolara Edkufeji. She said, Iyanifa, do you have a Facebook page?
Yes,
or
I
how
do.
do we contact you? Could you kindly,
Okay, so
she's online, so could you kindly address her?
Yes, so my Facebook or my social media handle is Iyanifa, the letter D, then the word icon. So that's
just contact me, I'll link you with her.
Yeah, or you can contact Princess, she'll link you, it's easier. Or you can also go through via my temple, Ifádiwúrà Temple UK. You can Google it and email me via there, or Princess can provide my information. I think going through Princess will be much easier. So yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. The second question comes from Duchess Bukola. She says, can you talk about New Age spirituality and how it links to Ifa? New Age spirituality. So she's one of our young people who are hungry to learn.
I'm just, thank you for that question, Duchess, but I'm just going to touch one area because again, it's very big. So when you talk about New Age, okay, well, you can call it New Age because I guess you can call it Ifa Old Age if you like. Because the point that I'm trying to make is that these things have been there times immemorial, just so-called remodernized. So when you look at people going to Stonehenge, and they go to see the essence that are in the stones, the essence of the whole structure of what is left, that they believe that there is a spiritual essence there. In Ifa, we have something called Orisha Oke, which is signified by a mountain, or if you like, rocks. And it talks about the energy of not just Orisha Oke, but Mother Earth, Ile. Which is what is said within Ifa, that it's what we all find here, and Mother Earth is the only thing we will all leave here. Mother Earth doesn't change, doesn't go anywhere. So I just want to use that example of, as of something that I can think of. So when you look at New Age spirituality and you look at I don't want to call it old age, but let's just use that word for now, for the purpose of being able to explain. Old age, Ifa.
Or ancient,
ever present and ever real, yes. Or ancient, ancient age spirituality.
And still very relevant.
Yes, very, very relevant, because Ifa is actually been marked down by UNESCO and UN as being World Heritage.
People don't know that.
Yes. Yeah.
A
So
lot of
I
people
will
don't know
send you
that.
the link, and you can put that on. But it's been actually examined, looked at, and confirmed to be
Studied,
World
yes.
Heritage.
Yes.
Yeah. You know.
It is World Heritage.
Yeah. So without coming off the subject of what Duchess asked me,
Yes.
without diverting too much. So when you look at the New Age spirituality, for me, New Age spirituality are things like Wicca, which I'm not going to go into so much now. Wicca is something, so they package it in a way that is more acceptable again to society, because like I said before, there is a lot of things that have happened through acceptability. You know, people are more gonna like the way that sounds or the way it looks, airy fairy.
In Nigeria, we say packaging.
Yeah, packaging, exactly. Thank you, Yami. So when you look at Wicca, I look at it and I smile. No disrespect to those that are Wiccans, but I guarantee you, when you see what you call Aje in Yoruba land, and you know, people make me laugh because they follow Nollywood and all these things, and they say, Ajeke, oh, those ones, they'll suck your blood. Do you know what an Aje looks like? What is the identification of an Aje? But they dare not bring those things in that way because it's more acceptable to say
and it also sells.
religion. And there's
It's
a
a
lot of
brand
things
they
when
can
you
sell.
look at Wicca and you dig and you dig and you dig, you'll see the elders, even those in the diaspora, talking about the old craft. So they hide the old craft behind the Wicca. For legal acceptability, different reasons.
Thank you so much. I hope the Dutch, but as you said, those are things we're still going to like expatiate on.
Yes, we're still going to touch on. I'm just doing the comparison so that she can understand in terms of what has been there before. So these things are, I guess, what I'm trying to say in essence, Duchess, has always existed in our way of life, Ifa, and they exist on a deeper level of things that you can do that will materialize in atoms, in chemistry, in biology, in physics, right before your very eyes.
Thank you so much. The next question, well, maybe it's more of a statement, is from Her Royal Highness Princess Moradeun Adedoyin-Solarin. She says, Ìwà pẹ̀lẹ́ can also be inborn or cultivated. What would you say about that?
Okay, so she's right in a sense, but because I read that question as well, for me, I still beg to differ in certain ways because it's like common sense. If it was really common, everybody would have it. So ìwà pẹ̀lẹ́ can be inborn. For example, you are royalty. Iyami, sorry to use you as an example. We have royalties that know what it takes in ìwà pẹ̀lẹ́ láti jẹ́ ọmọba. And we have ọmọba that don't hùwà rándanràndan. Is it not inborn in them? So I would rather go with the word that, you know, again, like I said earlier, tí wọ́n bá bí ni àtúntún rẹ̀ ni bí. Part of it is ìwà pẹ̀lẹ́. That is why I said last week, it is something that
like lifeline.
Yes, it's a lifeline, right? So you every day you have to be working on your character continuously, not even just daily, hourly, you know, every second, every minute. You need to be working on that. Yes, the pharmacology. Yeah. Definitely. But we also have to understand, I mean, we'll come to that as a topic as well in terms of pharmacology and looking at herbal remedies and medicine. When you look at paracetamol, for example, people don't realize that paracetamol, what you get in the tablet, is based on postcode. One. And from a legal perspective, it's based on postcode. So you might live in Kent, and you would get a different brand of paracetamol to me living in Brixton, because you've got analysts that will say are paid billions to analyze that a child living in a certain postcode wouldn't live past a certain time anyway. So it's basically a waste of money pumping a certain amount of money or level of things into them, right? But like I said, I will discuss that another day. Okay, so in government, there are analysts. Right. Okay. So if you have a family member, for example, living in Stockwell or Kennington, whereas you live in Kent, go to your GPs, get your paracetamol from them, just for argument's sake, and get them living in Kennington or Stockwell to go to their GP and get their paracetamol as well. Then compare the brands of paracetamol. Yes, you will find that it will never be the same. If you look at, for example, I'm not saying things are not changing. I'm just using Kent as an example because it's been long since I've been there. If you go to certain areas like Loughborough, Kent, the environment is different. You come to Stockwell or Brixton, you have a betting shop on every corner, a chicken shop, all these places, because it's based on postcode. But it's a topic we'll tackle another day. These things don't just appear by chance. No, it's not a good thing, but it's something for us to wake up into and understand. Mm-hmm. Well, they have different strength, but I mean, the point of why I even mentioned paracetamol in the first place is that when you get paracetamol that is done by the, pharmacological companies, or these, pharmaceutical companies, you get 0.0005% of the herbal content or the herb inside the paracetamol, whereas there are herbs that will give you 150% of the paracetamol. The rest of the contents or the component of that 0.0005% is chemical. Now, when you look at the British National Formula, BNF, that doctors use to prescribe medication to adults, because they have the ones for pediatric as well separate, you find that there are medication, when you look at contraindication, length of time, dosage, that you're not supposed to take for more than 3 weeks. But some people will tell you they have been on the same medication for 4 years. So you have a medication that is supposed to cure an ailment, but then it's meeting other things in your body, and the longer period of time that you're not supposed to use it, that they put you on it and continue to give you a repeat prescription, you are causing something else. If you all don't believe me, you can go online, purchase the BNF, it'll be delivered to your house. No, it's not you. I'm just saying, I want people to do their research as well, Princess. Buy a BNF. It's not that expensive. You can go on Amazon, Google it, find the British National Formula, buy it, take your time to look at the medication, the name, the dosage, the time, the length of time it's supposed to be used. Okay. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. So thank you very much for that question, Mr. Lakunle. I would say to you, if you don't already have Ifa, whether through Ishefa or Itefa, I would say to you, find a temple that, I don't know where you live, that you can attend, that is also a study group that can help you to grow and develop and learn about yourself. and learn about what is Ifa, what is it to be an Ifa devotee. If you wish, you can find some information on my website, which is Ifádiwúrà Temple UK. You can Google it, you'll find our website there. And also an email, I can send you some answers back in detail about this at ifadiwura@hotmail.co.uk. So again, that is ifadiwura@hotmail.co.uk. You can send me an email and I will, if I don't respond immediately, our Amuagwa will respond to you and pass it on to me. So find a temple, start to discover about yourself, learn about what is Ifa, because the reason why I also say this is that people are like, oh, Ifa is this, is that. And in as much as I'm an Iyanifa and I'm an Ifa devotee, you need to know what Ifa is all about. You need to know how to develop yourself. Because if you don't understand what you're getting into, you can never stay committed to it.
That's so true. Thank you so much, Iyanifa. And I think Mr. Lakunle Awuyale has already he sent us his email, so we will
fine,
we will be in touch with him and send him the information. Thank you very much. Right. The next one, last before the very last, is it's Princess Her Royal Highness Princess Adedoyin-Solarin. Iyanifa, are there healing herbs for arthritis?
Yes, ma'am.
To just explain to her if there are healing herbs.
There are plenty. Again, when we prescribe from a clinical perspective, there are many things that determine your blood type, your height, your body mass, how long the arthritis, if you're on any medications already, but there are plenty of herbs to eradicate arthritis.
So all she needs to do is to get in touch, with yourself.
Yes, ma'am.
And then we'll take it from there. Okay, thank you. And the last one is, well, this one is more of somebody who's just sending you some beautiful vibes. She says, her name is Hannah Adeshola. She says, I love you, Iyanifa.
Thank you so much.
I think we all love Iyanifa.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. I really do.
Thank you so much. So to wrap up, I just want you to please just give us, I think every week I've decided that you'll be giving us an admonition, one admonition or like a homework for us to just all go and ponder on and think about. So what will that be today before you then pray us out?
Okay, so so we can kind of recap about it very briefly next week. I will just say, what is Ori?
What is Ori?
Yes.
So ladies and gentlemen that are watching, for next week, our homework is what is Ori? How about for people who don't speak Yoruba, but are also very keen?
Ori is like the head. This is our head. So in Yoruba to English, Ori translates to the head. But Ori in Ifa is known as more in depth, your supreme being, your inner subconscious.
Your inner subconscious.
Yes. So
your supreme being and inner subconscious. Okay. Okay, so that's our homework. Thank you so much, Iyanifa. Oh, wow. All too soon, our time is fast coming up. We have about 4 more minutes. But the beauty about it is the more one learns, the more you want to know more. Yes. The more you feel, uninhibited, the more you feel liberated, the more you feel bold and strong and sure and confident of who you are. Especially how you've been so kind enough to break down all these things for us in bite sizes, so that we can, swallow them one by one, drink some water, come back again for more. So thank you very much indeed for your time. Next week, again, we're going to be here, same time, 8 o'clock on the Princess of Arize platform, Facebook Live. We'll be having our special guest, Iyanifa Omobolanle Ogundare Eleagu, who, as we all know, is an amazing woman. She is British. I love to call her British-born Yoruba descent. She's British-born Nigerian, but Yoruba descent. So her bloodline, her lineage is Yoruba.
Yes.
And therefore, She's also an Ifa priestess. She's a qualified lawyer that trained here in the UK, and she practiced for many, many years in the areas of advocacy, the areas of active. She's very much into activism. So she's interested in human rights, youth mentoring, but also she wears so many other caps. She's a seer, she's a spiritual healer, a diviner, an Ifa priestess, an Ifa devotee, a wife, a mother, a grandmother, a sister. I would love to call her that. But also, she's a child of God. She's a fashionista, as you can see.
I'm right behind you, Yami. I'm right behind you.
You know, but the what we see and what we find very interesting about Iyanifa is she's quite knowledgeable, and she's also explained to us that we continue to learn till we transition. Every day is about learning. She's also very witty, and she makes us laugh, which makes it very easy for us to just learn, and continue to drink from that portal of knowledge that she's opening bit by bit, because she dare not open it too big so that we don't get overwhelmed, but bit by bit, which is an amazing thing. So thank you, ma'am. God bless you indeed. I share Luduwari. I'm about to my big wow. Thank you so much. So would you like to give us our Iwuri as we flow out of this realm?
Elédùmarè àgọ̀tàn, a dúpẹ́ fún ọjọ́ ìní, ìpè àdá ọjọ́ pé, àdá ọjọ́ kò, o ò jẹ́ kí kankan nu wá dùbúlẹ̀ àìsàn, o ò jẹ́ kí porogodo ilé ayé lù fún wa jó, o ò jẹ́ ká rógun àsúré pè, o ò jẹ́ ká rógun àṣìṣe lórí ara wa, lórí ọmọ, lórí ọkọ, lórí aya. O dá wa sí tilétilé, o fi àánú ẹ, o fi gbé wa dúró. Elédùmarè àgọ̀tàn, má ṣe fi gbogbo wa sílẹ̀ báyìí o. Bá ṣe wá gbogbo àwọn tó wà lórí show yìí àtàwọn tó máa padà gbọ́ nígbà tó bá yá, má ṣe jẹ́ kí tiwọn kó di kójú ẹnikẹ́ni má ṣe fọ́. Igbá ilé wa báyìí kó máa lé sí, kí ẹnikẹ́ni báyìí kó má ṣe fi lé sílẹ̀ wọjà lọ, má ṣe jẹ́ ká fi lé sílẹ̀ wọjà lọ. Ara kò kí ń nígbà òrí, bẹ́ẹ̀ lára kì í nígbà epo, má ṣe jẹ́ kára kó ní wá láàárọ̀ lálẹ́ ọjọ́ ayé wa. Wọ́n ní ojú àṣà kì í ríbi, bẹ́ẹ̀ ni tàwòdì kì í rọ́ràn. Ojú wa kó má ṣe ríbi láàárọ̀, lọ́sàn-án, lálẹ́, kò jẹ́ kó tùbà kó tùjẹ́ fún wa. Gbogbo ìjáde wa lọ, jẹ́ ká máa lọre, ká máa bọ̀re. Ọkọ́ ọba, àdá ọba, kó má ṣe ṣá wa lẹ́sẹ̀ o. Gúnugún kì í kú léwe, jẹ́ ká dàgbà, ká dàgbà ọ̀kẹ́rẹ́. Gbogbo àwa tá ti bímọ, má ṣe jẹ́ a mọ sàárè ọmọ, má ṣe jẹ́ kí a kú fún ọkọ kó gbàwé ọkàn, má ṣe jẹ́ kí ọkọ náà kó kú fáya di opó kó wá dìwà mú báyìí, jẹ́ kó tùbà kó tùṣe fún wa títí di ọ̀sẹ̀ tó ń bọ̀. Ọ̀sẹ̀ yìí náà tí a wá mú, tí a wà nínú ẹ̀ yìí, tó ń lọ sí òpin yìí, ọ̀sẹ̀ yìí jẹ́ kó jẹ́ ọ̀sẹ̀ ayọ̀ fún wa délẹ̀. Ìdùnnú la fi bẹ̀rẹ̀ ọ̀sẹ̀ yìí, má ṣe jẹ́ ká fi ìbànújẹ́ parí ẹ̀. Má ṣe jẹ́ ká bọ́ sí abẹ́ ọkọ̀ ayọ́kẹ́lẹ́. A fi ìdùnnú bẹ̀rẹ̀ ọjọ́ tòní, má ṣe jẹ́ ká parí ẹ̀ sọ́gbà wèrè, má ṣe jẹ́ ká parí ẹ̀ sọ abẹ́ ọkọ̀ ayọ́kẹ́lẹ́, má ṣe jẹ́ ká parí ẹ̀ sínú ẹ̀wọ̀n, má ṣe jẹ́ ká parí ẹ̀ sí ilé ìwòsàn. Kò jẹ́ kọ́sẹ̀ yìí kó sàn wá síre. Ọ̀sẹ̀ tó ń bọ̀ náà báyìí kójú wa ṣe ní gbogbo tá a bá ti ń dáwọ́lé. Orí wa kó má ṣe padà lẹ́yìn wa. Gbogbo tí mo wí lè ní báyìí, àrọ̀ ti rọ̀ mọ́.
Àṣẹ, 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 àṣẹ wà. Ẹ ṣeun, mo dúpẹ́ o. Orin kan ó sọ sí mi lọ́kàn. Orin náà màá kọ́ tá a máa fi sọ pé ó tún dìgbà kan náà. Ó dà pé bàbá wa Ògúndé ló kọ orin yẹn. Ó ní mo jí lówùúrọ̀ mo gbóhùn ẹyẹ tó ń ké. Ire, ire, ire. Ẹyẹ ire, ẹyẹ olùgbàlà òjíṣẹ́ Olódùmarè. Ẹyẹ olóhùn méjì tíbi tire ló ń ké. Orí mi ò gbàbọdè, ire ni mo yàn o. Jíṣẹ́ owó òjíṣẹ́ ọkọ, jíṣẹ́ ajé òjíṣẹ́ aya, jíṣẹ́ owó o, mo gbọ́ o, ire ni mo kàn. Mo ti gbóhùn ẹlẹ́dàá mi tó gbére kò mí o lọ́nà àjò ní ire níbi iṣẹ́ òòjọ́ wa, ire a ní dandan ẹlẹ́dàá wa kó gbéra kó wá o ọ̀nà o ẹ ṣeun ẹ ṣeun ẹ ṣeun àbọrúbọ yìí o.
You have a beautiful voice, so Princess. I think we have to be getting you to sing for the show. Eléyìí nígbà ẹ lè máa ṣòjóró bẹ́ẹ̀ yẹn kọ́ jù sí nígbà tó wù mí.
Ẹ ṣeun ẹ bá wa kí alàgbà wa o wọ́n ṣe púpọ̀ o ìrìn àjò yín á dẹ̀ dánmọ́rán o tẹ́ bá padà sílé a dẹ̀ dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ sísítà wa arábìnrin wa Ọlábísí Ọbádára àti Isaiah àwọn ni magician tó wà lẹ́yìn gbogbo technology tá wọ́n tẹ̀ wọ́n dẹ̀ jẹ́ kí iná lọ jí.
Àwọn ló ń fi fáṣe látẹ̀kùnlé káwa lè bóde sáyé.
Benny, thank you so much indeed, Olabisi. Thank you, Isaiah, for the great work you're doing. Thank you, everybody that's tuned in with us. God bless you. Whatever questions that you have from today's show, we're going to put the show on my YouTube channel, and then you'll be able to watch it again in the comforts of your homes. And then you can also send your questions in. Again, we'll just randomly pick the questions and post them for them to Iyanifa, who will attend to them at the end of next week's show. So till same time next week, Thursday. Ire.